Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, you know I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. Gonna let it shine, shine. Everybody, shine, shine. You know you want to shine, shine. All around the world, shine, shine. When there's light in the soul, when there's light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. There is beauty in the person. When there's beauty in the person, when there's beauty in the person, there is harmony in the home. There is harmony in the home. When there's harmony in the home, when there's harmony in the home, there is honor in the nation. There is honor in the nation. When there's honor in the nation, there's honor in the nation. Oh, there is peace in the world. No more living in fear. We're gonna let it shine. We're gonna let it shine. Yes, we will. No more living in fear. No, we're gonna let it shine. No more living in fear. No way. We're gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Gonna let it shine, shine. Everybody, shine, shine. You know you want to shine, shine. All around the world, shine, shine. All my brothers and sisters, shine, shine. All around the world, shine, shine. You know you want to shine, shine. Shine, shine, shine. Shine, shine.
Once a choir director, always a choir director. I'm just ushering him right off stage. Wow. So welcome today to our Black History Month celebration. A couple people, if you didn't hear in the welcome, you may not have heard me say that I'm wearing this beautiful kente cloth that Reverend Sheila Gautreaux has loaned me today to honor and celebrate Black history. And but one person said, is that your tallis? Are you a rabbi today? And then right after that, somebody else said, forgive me, Father, I have sinned. It's been so long time since my last confession. So that was you, Amelia. Which is a great intro into the idea that we are universal. We really do honor all paths. And today we are celebrating particularly the contributions and the accomplishments of African Americans in our culture and in our lives. Before I move into the message today, which is going to be kind of short because we have a lot of great music, I want to just share a couple of ideas about this. I'm not trying to do this out of any sort of cultural appropriation. You know, I'm not black. I don't have the experience that my black brothers and sisters have had. But this is, I'm going to come from my heart of a deep appreciation and honor and recognition of what you have brought to us. So we try to do this quite a bit in Unity, absolutely. Sometimes people will say, well, we're Unity. Don't we see everybody as the same? Well, yes and no. Because we are Unity, but we do not see uniformity. There's a difference. And uniformity means that every individual brings something unique, and we see those differences and we celebrate them. But we also see that different groups of people bring something specific and beautiful, and we honor and we recognize it. Audre Lorde was a civil rights activist, and she has a quote that really sums this up. She says this: "It is not our differences that divide us, it's our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences." And so by doing this work of celebrating minority groups within our church, we're not seeking to divide us. We're actually seeking to educate ourselves so that we can be more united, so we can truly be unity. So we also celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, which is in September and October. We celebrate LGBTQ Pride Month in June. We also celebrate generations. In May, we'll be having a celebration of the different generations, a different kind of diversity. There's been some other requests that have come forward that we honor Native peoples and that we honor Asian Americans. And someone recently, I think with the Me Too movement that's happening, said maybe we should do something really honoring the contributions of women who for so long have, yeah, absolutely. So somebody sent me an email this week and said, what about us poor old white guys? And I said, well, being one, let me tell you, you're most welcome, and your contributions are also honored and celebrated here at Unity. Thank you so much as we do celebrate the gifts that all of us bring. So as you know, this is, you may not know, but as I know, this is the fourth in my 4-week series on relationships, the mystery of relationship. The first week we explored why we wouldn't talk about relationships from a theological perspective in Unity. If we're one with God, how do you have a relationship with something you're one with? And we talked about the three faces of God and how that reinforms and changes the way we perceive ourselves. We talked about the relationship with self and how that changes everything. The second week we talked about committed relationship, marriage, and that was you know, for somebody who has not had a great success rate at it, I've been told it was a pretty good talk, so I'm aspiring to learn something. The third week we talked about friendship, which is something I do have a great track record of, and the power of friends to change our lives for the good and the blessing that brings. And today, we're talking about something I also feel a great sense of appreciation and depth of knowledge in, and that is the power of community to change our lives for the good. I grew up in a tiny little Methodist church, and my mom would sneak me off to the Pentecostal church anytime she could. But in this little town in Oklahoma, 400 people, we had 3 churches, and on a Sunday morning, we had GOTS in all 3 of them. It was a tiny little church, and I was the church piano player at 12 years old, and I was terrible. But the community of those people, they saw something in me, and they encouraged it. And you know what? I got to be less than terrible. I got to be good. I meant more than terrible. I got to be really good at it because I gave my gift in the process of community, and I was blessed, and I was honored for it. So I have a deep understanding of what this means to be in spiritual community and to bring your gifts and to have them be imperfect and to see growth and evolution. So today, we're speaking about the beloved community. This is an idea that Dr. King spoke of powerfully and often, that he believed that community was the key to changing the world. He believed that if we can step into this way of understanding ourselves as connected and interconnected and interdependent upon each other, if we can move into that with a high degree of consciousness and generosity and equality, we can change the world. He was the son and grandson of a minister. So he also had the experience of growing up around community. Someone asked him, how will we know we're at the end of our civil rights work? How will we know we've accomplished all that we need to accomplish in this work? And this is what he said. He spoke about the end. He said, the end is reconciliation. The end is redemption. The end is the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opponents into friends. It is this type of understanding goodwill that will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age. And it is this love which will bring about miracles in the hearts of men. We know we're not there yet, but can you feel the possibility of that vision where opponents become friends? It doesn't say that they vote the same way. Have you thought about that? We could actually disagree with someone politically and still be friends. Each of us advocating for what we see and respecting and loving each other. The black church, I did not grow up in the black church. I have had the privilege of worshiping many times in black churches, and I'm always thrilled by it. If We don't really have a strong teaching on reincarnation, but several of my choir members told me they think I was a black woman in my last life. Which I will take as high praise. What you need to know about Black Church is that it was the only community afforded to people of dark skin for many, many generations. People who are the black folks in America, those of you, most of you know this, I'm sure, they didn't come here of their own accord. They brought here in chains, ripped from their own communities, from their own culture, from their own land, from their own language, from their own practice of religion, and brought here in slavery. You know, I've often mentioned work, and I'll talk about the slaves, and someone recently this week said a better way to use that rather than say slaves is to say enslaved Africans, because that's what they were. And can you imagine the wound that must create in the psyche to be pulled from all that you know that supports you and loves you and blesses you in community and then be isolated, taking your language, your name, all of it taken away? But early on, way before the abolitionist movement even, when people began to find a way to find community again. And church was really the way that happened. There were two ways that it happened. There was missions that the white churches would have to the plantations and create churches, and they were usually, they had the African Methodist Episcopal, the Baptist churches. That's how those sort of got started. But they appointed black preachers, and they began to share together, and they began to create a sense of community. There were other churches or spiritual practice groups. They called them hush harbors. They practiced their religion and their community quietly in places where they wouldn't attract the attention of the overseers. But something began to happen there. All the churches have this sort of themes, all the denominations and the movements in spirituality have a theme that they celebrate from the library of spiritual truth. In Unity, we often talk about the creative power. That would be sort of our main theme. Well, in Black Church, it was freedom. There's also something that really mystified people for a while is why were so many enslaved Africans able to embrace Christianity so quickly? Well, one scholar believes that it is because they already had an understanding of the universality of spiritual truth. They already had an understanding from the religions practiced in West Africa that God chooses many faces to wear, but it's one presence. And so this idea of the Black church, they embraced Christianity because it was all that was offered to them. And they began to find the narrative within that teaching that spoke to their own lives, and it was freedom as the truth of what is being offered to God's people. And the story of Moses and the children of Egypt being led out of Israel was a powerful narrative and theme. And the second thing that came out of that is we are not free until we are equal. And so the abolitionists, who were mostly white folks and some freed black people, that began to work against slavery, that movement began to take hold and take form and build momentum until it led till the 1860s when President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation and the legal practice of slavery ended. And how many of you know that was not the end of the struggle? And so 100 years later, a 26-year-old minister gave his first sermon at his new church, Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said this, because he knew that there was more to our work than just spiritual practice in the church. We have to take these principles of freedom and equality out into the world. He says, what we are doing is not wrong. If we are wrong, that the Supreme Court is wrong. If we are wrong, the Constitution of the United States is wrong. If we are wrong, God Almighty is wrong. Brave and courageous words from Dr. King. That we are called to be that light of the world. And during that movement, How did it happen? Where were those meetings that began to galvanize the power, create, and emerge this possibility of greater equality? It was in the churches. That's what happened. So there is a power in spiritual community to transform us from the lesser to the greater, from the less free to the more free. Are we finished with this work today? I don't believe so. I believe in the spiritual evolution of humankind. I think every time we lift up one group and we call out one inequity and we hold it to the light and we change it, and for one, it changes us all. That we are all being called to lift up each other in this work of greater freedom and greater equality. Community has the power to transform the world, but first it transforms the individual. As I said, that little kid playing the piano part, who if they hadn't gotten the praise and the support from those people, and they needed somebody to play the piano, I think that's why they did it. And I was free. I didn't pay anything. They didn't pay me anything. If they hadn't done that, I would have used my own negative self-talk, and I would have thought, well, this isn't for me. And I would have laid music aside, possibly. But because I got that support and that affirmation of who I was, it encouraged me to continue and to get better. How many of you have seen Black Panther? The rest of you, you need to go see it. It's an amazing movie. Even if you don't like superhero movies, this is a good one. If you don't know, it's a black superhero, Black Panther, from the mythical kingdom of Wakanda in Africa, in Central Africa. And it was actually created by two Jewish guys in the 60s who wanted to, they wanted to sell comic books to black kids. That's really why it was created. And the movie has become a cultural phenomenon. And one of the reasons why is because it is showing the world what powerful, beautiful, creative, intelligent black people look like, and particularly to young kids, yeah. So many of the images we get in our media are not favorable, they're not accurate. And this movie has an opportunity to give these kids a new thing to look up to. So I read this article in the New York Times this week. I'm going to share part of it from you. The writer is Kevin Noble Millard, and he took a group of African-American 7th graders from Brooklyn to see the movie. He was curious to see if this phenomenon of having it change their self-perception would in fact be true. He writes this: in 23 years as an educator specializing in the relationships of law, society, and entertainment in the construction of racial norms and beliefs, I had been keenly following the hype surrounding Black Panther and the argument that the story of an African superhero would benefit black children's self-esteem. There was the Black Panther Challenge, and there were crowdfunding campaigns to send youngsters around the country to see the movie. But in all the talk, a crucial element seemed to be missing: the voices of the children. What did they actually think of the film, and how did it make them feel? So for the rest of the article, these are just quotes from the kids after they saw the movie. Cayenne wrote, "I want to go jump over a car and make a tribe as well. Because if Black Panther can do it, I can as well." Paris says this: it makes me want to protect my family, believe in myself, never give up on anything, and try to achieve my goals, even if it costs my life. Jahim said this: to see a black person lead a whole country and creating all this technology really made me feel I can do more with my brain. Isn't that great? Gabriella said, black women are as strong as any men, and black little girls can be superheroes. And Jahim said this: for people of color, it shows us that we can work through any obstacles that are thrown at us if we work together, community. We can also help the world by sharing our resources. And the last one, again from Gabriella, she said, the film makes me want to start my own tribe and make my own inventions to help the world. It also makes me want to make my own Panther outfit. Aren't those great? And that's the power. That's the power of seeing ourselves differently, seeing the depiction of the the beloved community. You really see that in that movie. And we have this wonderful spiritual laboratory called church. We get the opportunity collectively to come together in spiritual community and see if we can attain the ideal of the beloved community and the benefits therein. We had an amazing experience last week after the 11 o'clock service. Many of us went to the Pyramid, and we had a celebration of life for our own Wilbert Thomas. Now, Wilbert is still with us, but he's currently experiencing cancer, and we don't know how much longer he has to be with us on earth. And this was his choice, and this was his request, is that he got to hear all the good things people say about him. He wanted to hear them. He was not able to actually come to the service. He just didn't have the energy. He was in the hospital, but we Skyped him in, and we got to speak to him, and we got to sing to him. We got to tell him how we see him. The light of God that shines through him. And there were about 300 of us there. I remember at one point I led us all in singing, "You Are the Face of God" to Wilbert. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. And Wilbert, if you're watching today, we'll sing it again if we need to. And then the whole community, we sang it to him, and then we sang it to each other. And it was healing and moving and powerful. Wilbert is one who knew how to get the full benefit of community because he gave so much of himself to it. He led our Rebuilding Together Houston team. He was a beloved member of this group sitting behind me, our choir. And did you ever see him show up to a performance or a rehearsal in a bad mood? Never. That smile lighting us up, reflecting back to us who we are, what's possible for us. So I know that it can be hard to get plugged into a spiritual community. Some of you are so plugged in, you need to take a vacation, really. You've been here a lot. And some of you come on a Sunday and then you leave and you haven't made friends yet. You haven't found your place to connect. And I know it's hard sometimes. I got an email this week from a single mom who filled out the survey, and she said, "I'm struggling. I really want you to be my spiritual community, and I've tried a couple things and I have not been able to connect. Can you help me?" So we want to help make it easier, to facilitate the path for you to step into true spiritual community. In Unity, we offer two things. We offer the teachings, which is this teaching of personal responsibility, of the co-creativity of principles put into practice can change your world. And that is powerful, and that is unique to us in what we offer. And the truth is, that is an individual piece of work. But we offer this second thing, which is the community aspect. And when you do the personal work in the context of community, everything is changed. I know some of you would love to be a part of a church or a spiritual community on this level, except for all those people. And I get it. We are somewhere, I don't remember what it was, I saw a church, and their slogan was, "No perfect people allowed." And we could easily say that is our motto here at Unity too. Sometimes we hurt each other with our humanity, sometimes we do. We don't show up perfectly. My friend Kathy Hearn used to say, we grow up all over each other. We are imperfect. But if we're willing to bring who we are into this sacred container called spiritual community, then the possibility for transformation, it lives, not in this room, but in our hearts. This time I'd like to invite forward Sheila Gautreaux. She is a Unity minister. Dear friend, she's been teaching and speaking and singing here for us. You got it? And she's going to lead us in the next part of our celebration.
What an honor it is as an African American woman to be honored today. And so I accept, I embrace, I am feeling and loving this. And as Dr. Martin Luther King on his journey and all that he gave and all that he did in his goal to create this beloved community right here in these United States of America, through the struggles and the challenges, and yet through the triumphs and the successes. One of the things that I have discovered as a Unity minister, as a spiritual student, in understanding my relationship with you and with the world, is that we cannot create the beloved community until we come to one realization, that in order for us to move forward successfully, we need each other to survive. I need you to survive. Help me out, choir. I need you. You need me.
You need me.
We're all a part.
We're all a part
of God's body.
God's body.
Stand with me.
Stand with me.
Agree with me.
Agree with me.
We're all a part of God's body. It is God's will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. Oh, my beloveds, I need you to survive. You are important to me. And I need you to survive. Come on, join us and sing this. I need you. You need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me. Agree with me. Oh, we're all a part of God's body. And it is God's will that every need be supplied. You are important to me, and I need you to survive. To me, and I need you. I need you to survive. Stand up and sing it to someone. I pray for you.
I pray for you.
You pray for me.
Pray for me.
Oh, I love you.
I love you.
And I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you. And I need you to survive. Sing it to someone else. I pray for you. You pray for me. Oh, I love you. And I need you to survive. to survive.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.